The Galactic Council flagship, Gethar Ascendant, sliced through the void between Mars and Earth, its obsidian hull gleaming under the distant sun. Admiral Varun stood at the command center, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the blue-green jewel growing larger on the main view screen. "Ooh, magnificent, isn't it?" he said, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. To think this small world caused so much trouble. His executive officer, Lothik, approached with a data tablet. "The fleet is in position. Admiral, 37 capital ships, 112 support vessels. No sign of resistance. As expected, the humans abandoned this world centuries ago," Varun said. "Their colonies are scattered across 3 systems now, all under Council jurisdiction. The Treaty of Juno ensures they cannot maintain military assets within this system. Yet we come with an armada," Lothik observed. Varun's secondary eyelids flickered, the equivalent of a dismissive smile. "Precaution. Their history suggests unpredictability." He turned away from the view screen, addressing the assembled command staff. Various species stood at attention: the arthropoid Nexari, the crystalline Voth, the gaseous Miri contained in their environmental suits, all united under Council authority, all eager to claim Earth. Begin atmospheric entry procedures. Launch terraforming probes to designated coordinates. The reclamation of Earth begins today. As the Council fleet dispersed into Earth orbit, none of its sophisticated sensors detected the Vindicator, a massive human dreadnought hidden in the shadow of the moon, its systems running silent. Commander Roy Geller watched the Council ships from the darkened bridge of the Vindicator, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of tactical displays. Centuries of exile had hardened his resolve, but the sight of alien vessels surrounding his ancestral home awakened something primal within him. "They've taken the bait," he said quietly. Raj Durant, his second in command, stood at his side. The younger man's optimism had always been a counterpoint to Roy's calculated ruthlessness. 300 years we've waited," Durant said. "Are we certain this is the only way?" Roy's eyes never left the display. "The Council believes Earth is defenseless, that we honored the Treaty of Juno, that humans are scattered, divided, diminished." His voice dropped to a whisper. "They're about to learn how wrong they are." Lieutenant Marlowe approached from the tactical station. "Commander, Council landing craft have begun atmospheric entry. Terraforming probes detected." "Time to wake the system," Roy said. He pressed his palm against the biometric scanner on his command chair. "Authorization Geller Alpha 7 Echo. Execute silent reclamation." Throughout the silent vessel, crew members watched as their stations powered to full capacity. The Vindicator had waited in dormancy for this moment, conserving energy, maintaining absolute stealth. On the moon's far side, buried beneath the regolith of the Daedalus crater, ancient installations stirred to life. Power cores that had lain dormant for generations began to hum with energy. "Signal sent," Marlowe confirmed. "Lunar installations are active." Roy nodded, "And now we wait." Admiral Varun watched with satisfaction as the first wave of shuttles descended toward Earth's surface. The planet had recovered remarkably since the Great Exodus. Forests had reclaimed cities. Oceans had cleansed themselves of pollution. Wildlife had flourished in humanity's absence. "A pristine world," he remarked, "perfect for Council needs." His communications officer, a Nexari named Thriz, suddenly stiffened at her station. "Admiral, we're experiencing some kind of interference." "Source?" Varun demanded. "Unknown, sir. It appears to be." Thriz's antennae twitched in confusion. Everywhere, across the Council fleet, communication systems went silent. Navigation computers flickered and reset. Power fluctuations rippled through vessel after vessel. "What's happening?" Varun demanded as the lights on the Jethar Ascendant dimmed momentarily. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "gravitational anomaly detected near Luna." On the view screen, the surface of the moon seemed to shimmer. A distortion wave emanated from multiple points on the lunar surface, spreading outward like ripples in a pond. "Impossible," Lothik whispered. "The Treaty of Juno forbade any military installations in this system." "The humans lied," Varun hissed, his scales darkening with rage. "Evasive maneuvers, get us out of—" The gravity distortion field reached the Council fleet before Varun could finish his command. Ships lurched violently as local space-time warped around them. The carefully orchestrated formation dissolved into chaos as vessels drifted powerlessly. Caught in the invisible web of human defenses, aboard the Vindicator, Roy watched the Council fleet's disarray with grim satisfaction. Lunar gravity manipulators functioning at optimal capacity, Marlowe reported. "Council fleet is immobilized." Durant stared at the tactical display in awe. "All these years, the Council thought we'd abandoned Earth." "We never left," Roy said. "We just went silent." The Juno Treaty had been humanity's greatest deception. While overtly accepting exile from their homeworld, they had secretly transformed the solar system into an intricate defensive web, with Earth at its protected center. Every planet, moon, and asteroid had been retrofitted with dormant technology, waiting for the day the Council would inevitably return to claim the cradle of humanity. "Phase 1 complete," Roy announced. "Begin Phase 2. Wake the Sentinels." Deep within Saturn's rings, where ice and rock provided perfect camouflage, two massive shapes stirred. The dreadnoughts, Leviathan and Oblivion, sister ships to the Vindicator, powered up their systems after centuries of hibernation. Admiral Varun fought to maintain control of his flagship as systems continued to fail around him. "Status report," he barked. "Communications still down, Admiral." Thriz replied. "We're limited to tight beam lasers between ships, and even those are degrading." "The navigation system's compromised," another officer added. "The gravitational distortions are creating false readings." Varun slammed his fist against the command console. "This was planned. The humans knew we would come." "Sir," Lothik said, voice low, "perhaps we should withdraw. Regroup beyond lunar orbit." Varun's scales flushed dark with anger. "No, I will not retreat from an abandoned world. Whatever traps they've laid, we can overcome them. The Council does not yield to primitive human deceptions." "Admiral," his sensor officer interrupted, "we're detecting movement from Jupiter's moons." On the tactical display, the mining platforms orbiting Jupiter's moons, Ganymede and Callisto, were changing configuration. What had appeared to be industrial equipment was transforming, revealing weapon emplacements and sensor arrays. "Those facilities were inspected regularly," Lothik protested. "They were certified as non-military. The humans have been planning this for centuries." Varun realized every inspection, every compliance check, all part of their deception. As the Council fleet struggled to re-establish control, Roy Geller issued new commands aboard the Vindicator. "Activate the Ganymede subsystems," he ordered. Colonel Theo Naber, commander of subsurface operations, acknowledged from his station. "Ganymede systems coming online. Deploying jamming field." On the tactical display, a wave of electronic interference spread from Jupiter's largest moon, engulfing the retreating Council vessels. Ship after ship reported sensor blindness as sophisticated jamming overwhelmed their detection systems. The Council relied too heavily on their technology, Roy observed. They never considered we might find ways to turn it against them. Durant watched the Council fleet's disorganized retreat with mixed emotions. "They came to terraform our home, to erase all evidence we ever existed. And now they'll understand why humanity survived. Roy said, not through brute force, but through patience and preparation. The Vindicator powered up its engines, emerging from the moon's shadow. Roy gave the order that would reveal humanity's presence to the Council for the first time. A broadcast on all frequencies, let them hear us. A simple message transmitted across the void, Earth is protected and withdraw or be destroyed. Admiral Varun received the transmission as his fleet regrouped near Jupiter's orbit. The human declaration provoked murmurs throughout the command deck. So they reveal themselves at last, he said. One ship against our armada. Sir, Lothik cautioned, our ships are experiencing widespread systems failures. The gravitational disruption damaged critical components. And now they think we'll simply leave. Varun laughed bitterly. The Council does not surrender to primitive threats. He straightened his uniform and addressed his command staff. Prepare all functional vessels for combat. We will crush this human resistance and proceed with the reclamation as planned. As the Council fleet regrouped, the Vindicator maintained its position near Earth. Roy knew Varun wouldn't retreat. The Admiral's pride wouldn't allow it. They're consolidating near Jupiter, Marlowe reported, the 31 vessels still operational. They appear to be preparing for an assault. Roy nodded. As expected, activate Phase 3. Durant looked concerned. The Venusian grid, is that necessary? They had their warning, Roy replied. Now they'll understand what it means to threaten our home. Deep beneath Venus's toxic atmosphere, ancient machinery awakened. What the Council had believed to be abandoned atmospheric processing platforms were in fact components of an elaborate defense system. One by one, they powered up, generating massive energy signatures that even the Council's compromised sensors couldn't miss. Aboard the Jethar Ascendant, Varun's tactical officer reported with alarm. Admiral, energy spike detected from Venus. Before Varun could respond, space itself seemed to warp between Venus and Jupiter. The lead Council vessels suddenly found themselves caught in what felt like thick syrup, an inertial dampening field that slowed their advance to a crawl. Impossible, Varun whispered. They've weaponized space-time itself? Sir, Lothik urged, we must withdraw beyond the system boundary. The humans have clearly prepared defenses we never anticipated. Varun's pride warred with his tactical sense. No, we still outnumber them. A blinding flash erupted from one of the Council cruisers caught in the inertial field. The ship had attempted to engage its faster-than-light drive, only to have the energy reflected back upon itself. The vessel imploded, leaving nothing but scattered debris. All ships, hold position, Varun ordered. Do not attempt FTL while within the inertial field. But it was too late. 2 more vessels, unable to receive the warning due to the communication jamming, suffered the same fate. In moments, Varun had lost 3 capital ships without the humans firing a single conventional weapon. Roy watched the destruction from the Vindicator's bridge, his expression grave. The Council never understood. We didn't build weapons of war, we built weapons of physics. Durant couldn't tear his eyes from the tactical display. Those ships, thousands of lives. They came to erase our world, Roy said quietly. What mercy should we show them? The Venusian defense grid continued its work, creating pockets of distorted space-time that ensnared Council vessels like flies in amber. Those that attempted to force their way through found their own energy turned against them. Meanwhile, from the rings of Saturn, the dreadnoughts Leviathan and Oblivion emerged, their massive black hulls absorbing rather than reflecting light. They moved with deliberate slowness, their presence alone a statement of human resolve. Admiral Varun stared at the tactical display in disbelief as the human dreadnoughts approached from Saturn. E3 ships, he said incredulously. They think 3 ships can stand against the might of the Council? Sir, Lothik said, these aren't ordinary vessels. They're design. I've never seen anything like it. And after what we've witnessed with their planetary defenses... Enough, Varun snapped. I will not be intimidated by human tricks. Target the approaching dreadnoughts. All functional weapons. Fire at will. The Council ships that remained operational unleashed a barrage of energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. The space between Jupiter and Saturn lit up with weapons fire. Aboard the Vindicator, Roy watched calmly as the Council fleet opened fire on the approaching dreadnoughts. Shields holding on Leviathan and Oblivion. Marlowe reported, no significant damage. Roy nodded. They still don't understand. Proceed to Martian defensive line. The 3 human dreadnoughts altered course, heading not toward the Council fleet but toward Mars. This unexpected maneuver caused confusion among the Council forces. They're retreating, Varun said in disbelief. No, sir, his tactical officer responded. They appear to be taking up positions around Mars. Follow them, Varun ordered. Whatever they're planning, we'll put an end to it. The Council fleet pursued the human dreadnoughts, leaving behind the inertial trap of Venus. As they approached Mars, sensors detected no unusual activity from the red planet. No energy signatures, Thriz reported. No defensive systems. Mars appears dormant. The humans are cornered, Varun declared. Prepare boarding parties and we'll capture their ships and extract their secrets. But as the Council fleet entered Martian orbit, Roy Geller gave the order that would seal their fate. Activate the Martian defense grid. Authorization Geller Omega 9. Beneath the rusty surface of Mars, in bunkers that had lain silent for centuries. Massive railgun systems powered up. What the Council had dismissed as abandoned mining operations were in fact the most devastating weapons in humanity's arsenal. Colonel Naber confirmed from his station, Martian subsurface units active, gravity modulators online. The surface of Mars rippled as localized gravity wells formed above the hidden railgun positions. The Council fleet, now committed to their attack run, found themselves drawn inexorably toward these gravity wells. What's happening? Varun demanded as the Jethar Ascendant shuddered, its course altering without command. Gravitational anomalies, his science officer reported frantically. We're being pulled into predetermined positions. Roy's voice was cold as he gave the final order. Fire! From the surface of Mars, hypervelocity projectiles launched in perfect silence. These were not explosive warheads, but simple tungsten rods, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. Their kinetic energy alone made them more devastating than any conventional weapon. The Council ships trapped in Mars gravity wells could not evade. The railgun projectiles struck with surgical precision, bypassing shields designed to repel energy weapons. Hull after hull was breached, the projectiles continuing through multiple decks before exiting the other side. The Jethar Ascendant took 3 direct hits. The bridge shook violently as alarms blared. Hull breach, decks 4 through 17, someone shouted. Weapon systems offline. Engine core destabilizing. Varun stared in horror as his mighty flagship began to break apart around him. How? He whispered. How could they have hidden such weapons? Lothik grabbed his arm. Admiral, we must evacuate. As escape pods jettisoned from the dying flagship, Roy watched from the Vindicator's bridge. The Council fleet was in ruins, decimated not by overwhelming force but by precisely applied physics. Council forces in disarray, Marlowe reported, when 27 capital ships disabled or destroyed, remaining vessels attempting to withdraw. Durant stood in stunned silence, watching the destruction. We've won, he said finally. Earth is safe. For now, Roy replied, but there will be consequences. The human victory had been absolute, but not without cost. The Venusian defense grid had required human operators, volunteers who had lived in isolation for generations, maintaining the ancient machinery. Their sacrifice had made this victory possible. As the remaining council vessels limped away from the solar system, Roy ordered a system-wide stand-down. The planetary defenses returned to dormancy, ready to awaken again if needed. "Broadcast final message," Roy commanded, across all frequencies, in languages understood by every council species. The human declaration spread. Earth remains under human protection. Any future incursion will be met with total destruction. We desire no conflict, but we will defend our home. In the aftermath, distress calls from the retreating council vessels reached the galactic community. In the Obsidian Tower, the seat of council government, representatives of 100 species debated the implications of humanity's unexpected resurgence. The Vindicator, Leviathan, and Oblivion took up sentinel positions around Earth, their black hulls absorbing starlight as they resumed their vigilant watch. On the bridge of the Vindicator, Roy and Durant stood before the view screen, gazing at the blue-green world they had defended. "Do you think they'll return?" Durant asked. Roy considered the question. "Not soon. The Council values survival above all else. They've learned that Earth carries too high a price. And us, what happens to humanity now?" "We continue as we have," Roy said. "Silent, watchful, ready." He turned from the view screen. "Earth remains our home, even if we can no longer walk its surface." The Treaty of Juno had forced humanity to abandon Earth, but in truth, they had never left. They had simply gone silent, transforming their solar system into an impenetrable fortress while appearing to comply with Council demands. Now, as the human dreadnoughts powered down to minimum operations, that silence returned, not as surrender, but as sentinel. Earth would remain untouched, protected by humanity's most powerful weapon, patience. And throughout the galaxy, a new understanding spread. Earth was not to be trifled with, for when humans defended their home, they did so with terrifying efficiency. The silence endured both warning and shield. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session 3 days after the solar system disaster. Representatives from 78 spacefaring civilizations gathered in the Obsidian Tower, their voices raised in alarm and accusation. High Counselor Zath, a towering insectoid with iridescent carapace, called for order. "We must address what has happened with clarity and purpose," he announced. "The reclamation fleet has been decimated, Admiral Varun's flagship destroyed, over 16,000 council citizens lost." Murmurs rippled through the assembly chamber. "The humans violated the Treaty of Juno," shouted the Nexari representative. "They maintained military installations throughout their system." "Did they?" countered Ambassador Krell of the Voth Confederacy. His crystalline form glinted as he moved to the central podium. The treaty specified no human military presence on Earth or in Earth orbit. It said nothing about transforming other planetary bodies into weapons. "A technicality," hissed another delegate. "Law is built on technicalities," Krell replied coolly. "The humans outsmarted us. They appeared to accept exile while preparing for our inevitable return." High Counselor Zath raised all 4 of his limbs for silence. "Regardless of treaty interpretations, we must decide our response. Admiral Varen acted with council authority. His defeat cannot go unanswered." In the shadows of the chamber, Lothik, now the highest-ranking survivor of the Jethar Ascendant, listened with growing concern. He had witnessed firsthand the human defenses, had seen how casually they had annihilated the Council's most powerful warships. "If I may address the Council," he said, stepping forward. Zath nodded. Speak, Commander Lothik. You were there. Lothik gathered his thoughts, remembering the silent devastation, the precision of the human attack. Honored representatives, he began. I witnessed the human defense of their system. They could have destroyed our entire fleet. Instead, they disabled our ships and allowed survivors to retreat. He paused. They showed restraint. Restraint? Scoffed the Nexari delegate. They slaughtered thousands. After warning us to withdraw, Lothik countered. Admiral Varun chose to press the attack despite clear evidence of superior defensive capabilities. A hushed tension fell over the chamber as Lothik continued. The humans transformed their entire system into a fortress while appearing helpless. They maintained this deception for centuries. What does this tell us about them? He looked around the chamber. It tells us they are patient beyond measure, strategic beyond our understanding, and most importantly, they only want to be left alone. High Counselor Zath's compound eyes gleamed. You suggest we simply abandon all claim to Earth, a prime world in a resource-rich system? I suggest, Lothik said carefully, that the cost of taking Earth would bankrupt the Council, not just in ships and lives, but in our standing among galactic civilizations. The humans have shown they can destroy our most powerful weapons without leaving their system. What else might they be capable of? The chamber erupted in debate. Some called for massive retaliation, others for diplomatic engagement. Through it all, Lothik remained silent, his warning delivered. In the end, the Council voted to establish a quarantine zone around the solar system. No Council vessels would approach Earth again, at least not until new strategies could be developed. As the session adjourned, Ambassador Krell approached Lothik privately. You saved many lives today, the crystalline being said. War with humans would have been costly. I simply told the truth, Lothik replied. Truth is often the first casualty when pride is wounded. Krell observed, Tell me, do you believe the humans would extend their conflict beyond their system if provoked further? Lothik considered the question. They had centuries to prepare their defenses. Who knows what else they've prepared, what sleeper agents might exist throughout Council space? He shook his head. No, Ambassador. I believe they meant exactly what they said. They wish only to protect their homeworld. Then we would be wise to let them have it. Krell concluded. As the Council adjusted to this new reality, humanity maintained its silent vigil. The Vindicator remained in Earth orbit, its systems powered down to minimal levels, a black sentinel against the stars. Commander Roy Geller stood in his private quarters, gazing at a small hologram, the last image of Earth's surface before human evacuation. Green forests, blue oceans, white clouds. Home. A chime announced Durant's arrival. Commander, we've received word from the colonial outposts. The Council has established a quarantine zone around our system. No ships are permitted to approach. Roy nodded. As expected. Their pride is wounded, but their survival instinct is strong. The colonists are asking when they can return to Earth. Roy deactivated the hologram. Not yet, perhaps not in our lifetime. The Council must believe we maintain constant vigilance. Our absence is what protects Earth now. Durant frowned. So we continue the charade, allowing the Council to believe we operate these defenses actively? The greatest weapon in humanity's arsenal has always been deception. Roy said, The planetary defenses are automated, designed to operate for centuries with minimal maintenance. As long as the Council believes we actively control them, they'll keep their distance. And humanity remains in exile, Durant said bitterly. For now, Roy agreed, but Earth remains unspoiled. And one day, when the time is right, we will return home. He reactivated the hologram, Earth's beauty filling the small room with blue-green light. We may walk different worlds, but we never truly left. 6 months after the Council's failed reclamation attempt, a small survey vessel approached the outer edge of the solar system. The Miran Explorer was not a Council ship, but operated under charter from the Independent Scientific Consortium, an organization with no political affiliations. Captain Alara Voss studied the sensor readings carefully. The quarantine beacons established by the Council pulsed their warning. Restricted zone, no entry. "How close can we get without triggering the human defenses?" asked Dr. Samuel Narayan, the expedition's chief xenoanthropologist. "Unknown," Ilara replied. "The Council report suggests their automated systems detected intrusion at the heliopause, the boundary where solar wind meets interstellar space." Samuel mused. "Fascinating. They've essentially claimed the entire heliosphere as their territory." Ilara's first officer, Tarek, looked uneasy. "Captain, we should maintain our distance. The humans destroyed a Council armada. What chance would we have?" "We're not here to challenge them, Tarek," Ilara said. "We're here to understand." For decades, Dr. Narayan had studied human history and culture from fragmented records and Council reports. The solar system incident had vindicated his long-held theory that humanity had never accepted their exile as permanent. "Their deception was masterful," he said almost admiringly. "They appeared to comply with the Treaty of Juno while secretly transforming their system into a fortress." "But why?" Tarek asked. "Why not simply fight the Council 3 centuries ago?" "Because they would have lost," Ilara suggested. Samuel nodded. "Precisely. Humanity was outmatched when the Council first discovered them. Rather than face extinction, they accepted apparent defeat while preparing for eventual return." "Extreme patience," Tarek said. "A cultural characteristic," Samuel explained. "Human history is filled with examples of long-term strategic thinking. Their game of chess could take hours. Their literature speaks of plans spanning generations. They think in time frames that most Council species find uncomfortable." The Miran Explorer maintained position at the edge of the heliosphere, its passive sensors gathering what data they could. Earth remained a distant blue point, indistinguishable from the other planets to their instruments. "No signs of active technology," Tarek reported. "If their defenses are still operational, they're completely dormant." Ilara considered this information. "Dr. Narayan, in your expert opinion, would the humans attack a scientific vessel?" "Impossible to say with certainty," Samuel replied. "Their message was clear. They wish to be left alone. Whether they differentiate between military and scientific incursions," he shrugged, "we would be testing their tolerance." After careful deliberation, Ilara decided against entering the heliosphere. The Miran Explorer completed its observations from a safe distance and prepared to depart. As Samuel reviewed the sensor data in his laboratory, he noticed something curious, a faint transmission emanating not from Earth but from one of the outer planets. The signal was barely detectable, encoded in a way that made it appear as natural radiation to most scanning systems. He isolated the signal and ran it through decryption algorithms. Gradually, a message emerged, coordinates and a simple phrase. "Observer acknowledged, curiosity respected, distance appreciated." The humans knew they were there, had detected their presence despite their passive stance, and had chosen to communicate rather than threaten. Samuel brought this discovery to Captain Ilara, who studied the message with furrowed brow. "They're watching," she said quietly, "even at this distance. And they've chosen not to perceive us as a threat," Samuel added. "This suggests nuance in their defensive posture. They distinguish between different types of approach." Or they're simply confident they could destroy us at any moment, Tarek muttered. Ilara made her decision. We'll respond with our own message, scientific purpose only, no territorial ambitions. The response was crafted carefully and transmitted toward the coordinates provided. For 3 days, there was no reply, and the Mirren explorer prepared to leave the system. Then, as they initiated departure procedures, a final transmission arrived, a massive data packet encoded in scientific notation. When decrypted, it contained detailed astronomical observations of nearby star systems, some previously unexplored by Council or independent vessels. A gift of knowledge, Samuel said, amazed. They're offering scientific cooperation while maintaining their isolation. Ilara studied the data. The implications are significant, not just for our understanding of the humans, but for the Council's approach to them. The Moran explorer returned to independent space with its findings. Dr. Narayan's subsequent paper, Observations on Human Territorial Behavior Post-Council Engagement, became widely circulated among scientific and diplomatic communities. Its conclusion was stark. The humans had not simply created a defensive network. They had established perfect asymmetric deterrence. They could destroy any force sent against them while remaining virtually untouchable themselves. The paper recommended a diplomatic approach based on mutual non-interference. The humans had demonstrated no expansionist desires, only a fierce determination to protect their homeworld. In the Obsidian Tower, the Council debated this new information. Some saw opportunity in the humans' apparent willingness to share scientific knowledge. Others remained suspicious, arguing that any engagement would legitimize their treaty violations. High Counselor Zath ultimately authorized limited scientific exchange, conducted remotely from beyond the heliosphere. The quarantine would remain in effect, but channels of communication would be established. It was a tentative first step toward a new understanding between humanity and the galactic community. Aboard the Vindicator, Roy Geller reviewed reports from the Automated Defense Network. The scientific vessel had departed, carrying with it the astronomical data packet he had authorized. A risk, Durant said, standing nearby, revealing our awareness of their presence. A calculated one, Roy replied. The Council needs to understand we can distinguish between threats and curiosity. Lieutenant Marlowe joined them, bringing updated intelligence. Colonial leadership is concerned about opening any dialogue with outsiders. They fear it compromises our security. Roy understood their concern. Humanity's surviving colonies, scattered across 3 distant systems, had maintained strict isolation protocols for generations. The solar system incident had been their first direct interaction with the Council in centuries. The colonies were established as insurance, Roy said. Places where humanity could survive if Earth fell. But isolation has limitations. We've seen how the Council evolved during our absence. We must understand our neighbors if we're to coexist. Coexistence? Durant questioned. After what they tried to do to Earth. The Council is not monolithic, Roy explained. Already divisions have appeared in their response to us. Some factions advocate for peaceful engagement, others for eventual reconquest. And which do we encourage? Marlowe asked. Roy turned to the view screen, where Earth hung in silent beauty. Both. We respond to peace with peace, to threats with overwhelming force. The Council must learn that humanity cannot be conquered but can be partnered with. In the months that followed, carefully controlled exchanges continued. The Vindicator maintained its silent watch, occasionally transmitting scientific data to independent research vessels that respected the quarantine boundary. Slowly, a new equilibrium established itself. The Council formally acknowledged humanity's claim to the solar system while maintaining that the planetary defense network violated the spirit of the Treaty of Juno. Humanity neither confirmed nor denied this interpretation, allowing strategic ambiguity to preserve their advantage. 1 year after the failed reclamation, Roy Geller presided over a momentous occasion. A small shuttle departed the Vindicator, carrying a select team toward Earth's surface, the first humans to set foot on their ancestral home in 3 centuries. Colonel Naber led the expedition, landing in what had once been the North American continent. Forests had reclaimed former cities, nature healing the scars of ancient human industry. The team collected samples, established monitoring stations, and planted a simple marker. Not a flag of conquest, but a memorial bearing the names of those who had sacrificed to keep Earth safe during the long exile. When they returned to the Vindicator, Naber presented Roy with a small container of Earth soil. "From home," he said simply. Roy accepted it with reverence. "Has the planet recovered completely?" "Remarkably so," Naber replied. "Radiation levels normal, biodiversity thriving. The Council was right about one thing. Earth is a jewel worth protecting." Durant, who had monitored the expedition from orbit, joined them. "When will we bring our people home?" he asked. "The colonies grow more distant with each generation. Soon, Earth will be just a legend to them." Roy considered the question that had haunted him for years. "Not yet," he finally said. "The Council respects our defenses, but fear remains their primary motivation. If they detected large-scale resettlement, they might see it as expansion rather than return." "So we maintain the fiction," Durant said bitterly, "that Earth remains untouched while we exist in exile." "For now." Roy agreed. "But not forever. Each expedition plants the seeds for eventual return. Each scientific exchange builds legitimacy for our claim. Time remains our ally." "Durant." Time," Durant echoed. "Always more time." Roy placed the container of Earth soil in a small recess in his quarters, next to the hologram projector. "Our ancestors waited 3 centuries for this moment. Their patience preserved Earth for future generations. We honor them by showing the same resolve." Durant nodded reluctantly. "And the Council? You will adapt to our presence," Roy said. "Already, trade negotiations have begun with our colonial outposts. Some Council species express interest in cultural exchange. The galaxy is adjusting to humanity's return to the stage." "Not return," Durant corrected, "and we never left. We simply went silent." Roy smiled slightly. "Indeed. And now we speak again carefully, strategically, but with purpose." The Vindicator continued its orbit around Earth, no longer hiding in the moon's shadow, but maintaining its vigilant watch. Sister ships patrolled the outer system, a clear message to any who might consider challenging humanity's claim. On distant colony worlds, the news of Earth's defense spread hope and pride. Children were taught the history of their ancestral home, not as a lost paradise, but as a protected treasure awaiting their eventual return. And in the Obsidian Tower, the Council began the long process of revising its understanding of humanity. Not as a primitive species easily displaced, but as a patient, strategic civilization that had transformed defeat into victory through centuries of silent preparation. High Counselor Zath, addressing the full Council Assembly, summarized the new reality. "The humans have taught us an important lesson, one that will shape our policies for generations to come. Never mistake silence for surrender. Never confuse patience for weakness. And never under any circumstances threaten a species in their home without understanding what they are willing to do to defend it." As stars wheeled above Earth's recovering forests and oceans, humanity maintained its quiet vigil. The silence that had protected them for centuries gradually gave way to measured words, careful diplomacy, and the slow, deliberate process of reclaiming their place among the stars. Earth remained their anchor, their origin, their home, protected not by walls or fleets, but by the most powerful force humanity had ever wielded. The strategic power of silence, followed by precisely applied force. The message had been delivered to the galaxy. Earth is protected. Humanity endures. And silence can be the most devastating weapon of all.